Welcome back to our 4TA channel where we talk with a variety of different athletes, former, current, whatever else. I'm your host and one of the founders of 4TA, or For the Athletes. My name's Carolyn Stein. I'm super excited about today's guest with Erin Bodmer. Erin, you want to introduce yourself and explain how we know each other?
Yeah, so I'm Erin and I played lacrosse at Lynn and graduated in 2021. Me and Stein were roommates our freshman year. And she's like the first person that I met that was going to be on the team with me. And yeah, that's about it. I am 2 years post-grad and I job in finance now, and I live up in Virginia.
Yeah. What made you decide to play in college at the college level?
So I feel like there's two things that made me want to play. I've been playing lacrosse since I was like 4 or 5. And when you play like your entire life, you kind of feel like you have to, because you're like, why else did I just like spend my entire life playing the sport? So I feel like that was definitely a pull of it. And then aside from that, like just all the glitz and glam from, watching like the Big Ten teams, like growing up watching Maryland and UNC and Syracuse and like all these like super cool people play. And you're like, oh, like I really want to do that. And then you get like, for me, I was brought down to earth a little bit more, and they're like, okay, so you can go like D2 level. So, so I was looking at schools, and um, Lynn just made sense. Like the college I went to, it kind of fell into place. My dad played baseball there, so we'd always gotten flyers in the mail and stuff for them. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and then me and Erin were the first two commits, so it was just us two for a hot minute there.
And honestly, like we had a lot of faith doing that,
Yeah.
just being us two people
Our
carrying a
coach was
team.
like, you just got to trust me. And both of us were like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think our freshman year especially was a lot of chaos, but good and bad chaos. Do you remember any of
Yeah.
your highlights, either good or bad?
Yeah, so definitely highlights that I experienced. Like the good ones were, like our technically inaugural year. I don't really know if that was, our first or second year because of COVID. But our like big game, our first game when we went into overtime against Florida Tech. And I was exhausted, got the overtime goal. That was definitely a highlight. And then other highlights are probably just like all like the team bonding things that we did. I feel like those things are what stuck with me the most. Um, Obviously like games too, like winning games that, were super close. Uh, but I honestly think like what I remember now most, like being out of college, is just all the team bonding experiences and actual like relationships.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think there was any, like, what do you think the lows were, either on or off the field?
Yeah, so I mean, looking back on like the lows, I think the things that impacted me the most was like one, the COVID year, the year following 2020, 2021, like that was pretty hard as an athlete. Um, we didn't get a we didn't have a lot of the things that we were used to our first year. So like a training room, or like, our locker room, having certain forms of support like in person. I felt like we had to jump a bunch of um, obstacles to like get what we needed for things like mental health, or basically any tasks that we needed on campus or like the university. So that in general, that was kind of a low, but also like there were great things that came out of it. It definitely made us closer because everybody had the exact same struggle of a pandemic going on, which I felt like, brought people closer together. And then another low for me, like the only thing I could really think of is like injuries. Like I feel like those really had a big impact on me and was just super frustrating. And they were really draining, honestly, like just dealing with like chronic injuries.
Yeah, I feel like when you think about, like, people are like, oh yeah, like it's more intense than high school, like whatever sport. Like they keep saying that, but once you're in it, it's so much more demanding on your body, but you don't like know how to manage your time yet. So it's like, okay, should I rest for the 1 hour that I have free today, or should I go to the training room, or should I do my homework? And it's kind of like, for me, it was a time management thing. I mean, you were my roommate. I never did things I was supposed to.
Yeah, no, there was definitely a lot to juggle there. I agree with you totally, like just finding time to do certain things with healing your body. You definitely have to end up prioritizing it because that flows into everything. Like you feel like crap in the classroom because you're so sore, and that's what all you can focus on. And then, like on the field, it really impacts you. So like for me, like I had really bad shin splints, and those things, I mean, you had to rest to basically heal those. You could do so much you can only do so much PT for those. And then there's that thing where it's like, well, you can't rest, like you're in season, like
Yeah.
you're doing practices, and then you felt like guilt for like, needing to take off a little bit because of your legs.
Yeah. And then there was also like, I feel like, I mean, maybe it was just me a little bit, but I felt like, especially since we were freshmen, there's the big thing of like, you want to meet new friends, that you want to be social, like it's your first time not having a curfew and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, I probably should rest because I haven't gotten a good night's sleep in a while, but everyone's going out. So like maybe I should go out, but maybe I really shouldn't.
Yeah.
That kind of
No, it
got me
was
too.
yeah, I would say that's hard. And then like other lows, just normal stuff that I feel like a lot of us have to deal with. So like basically, um, sorry, just lost my train of thought. Other things that we have to deal with, which is basically like being like not having any time to do anything. Like we weren't like other kids who could just go out and hang out with friends and whatever on the weekend.
Yeah.
One sec. Or go out. We didn't have like that flexibility and time to see friends, go home and visit our families a lot. Just like other things that I feel like a lot of college kids did. Tailgates, I don't know, just like getting crazy and doing like the college experience, which like thinking back on it now, like I don't care about doing that stuff, and I probably didn't. But in the moment, I definitely think that like there were some things that I really wanted to be able to have the flexibility to do that I couldn't because of college sports. But I mean, obviously college sports outweighed it when it comes to things like winning and being with your team and all the team bonding activities. So
Yeah. And then Erin was also like, if she was hurt, you wouldn't know she's hurt until she's like hurt. So I kind of want to know, like, how is your mental health impacted? Because I know like there are sometimes where you're like, I'm so over this, but I didn't really know during it. Like I feel like in the moment, you don't really know how everyone's dealing with it.
yeah, no, definitely. Well, so like that's one of the things like my is college sports definitely gives you some sort of like tough mentality. But it's not always like a good thing. I think like our egos overpower it. Like I always say, like your ego can be good or bad. For a lot of college athletes, it's bad in the sense where like we don't want to complain about injuries. We don't because like it could impact playing time or like you just don't want to look weak. And there's certain things like that kind of uh limit what we say. So like I definitely felt that a lot because like whether it was trying to be like on first line for like midi or I don't know, whatever else it was mostly for me, like I didn't want to look weaker, like I couldn't do something so that it would impact my playing time or how people viewed me. That definitely, I don't know, I had struggles asking for help in that sense, I think. Um, and honestly, like if I would have just spoken up and been like, if I would have just spoken up, I probably uh, wouldn't have had as many injuries or wouldn't be so sore all the time if I had just done the things that like my body was telling me that I needed to do.
It's also like, I feel like because we were the inaugural team, we only had like 2 subs the first year. So there was barely any players. And then on top of that, there was only 3 transfers, right? We had 3 transfers. But everyone was new to the school. So everyone's like trying to like figure out the school, figure out, like, we had our dorm room, or our dorm building was literally our entire team except for 2 kids. So it was kind of like you're constantly around who you're up against. So like, all right, like everyone else seems fine, so I guess I'm fine. Like you just kind of have to roll with the punches. But I don't think we really ever talked about it. Like it was never like, okay, let's all talk about our injuries. So it's just kind of, we never knew what was going on.
Yeah, and then there was also like there was like some like shame for like having injuries sometimes too. Like people would compare it and be like, like, oh, Erin's complaining about this, but like I have this injury going on that's like so much worse or whatever it is. And then that you also like don't want to speak up about it and you're like, okay, like, yeah, I guess my injury's not as bad as that. And with the same thing, like we didn't have the numbers. So like if several of us or a couple of us were really hurting, it was like, okay, like the person who's hurting the worst, you can sit out this practice because we literally don't have the numbers for all of you guys to be resting right now, which kind of sucked. But I mean, we
Yeah.
got through
You got through it.
it.
Kind of talking about like all of that stuff. What did you think about the ability to ask for help mentally with like mental
Yeah.
health?
Yeah. So our first year, again being super new, I don't think that we had I wish that we had a little bit more information or were, better informed about how to get help like for issues. So I think that the way that it kind of came across was, if you're really struggling with something personal, to like go to these people for help. And now being out of college and just having more awareness around like talking to somebody like a therapist, sports therapist, whatever it is that they should be accessible and you can be able to talk to them about anything. Like you don't need to have like some huge event to be able to get help and like talk to somebody about all these stresses that you're having. Um, and we didn't really get that as much as I wish we did. We had to, schedule with somebody and then you would get on their calendar like 2 weeks out because we only had one person that we could talk to. Which like when you think about it, for as many teams that we had and students and players, one person for like all these people, like
Yeah.
if people really want to waste their like time to get on a calendar and do that and have to then wait another month for a checkup. So I think that that was really hard. Um, and then after COVID, that was one of the things that was very limited, it seemed. And we didn't have somebody that we could just talk to in that sense. However, like, if I went to either of our coaches, they were very supportive. They would talk through a lot of stuff um, with us, but there's, like when you're a student athlete, you kind of want to keep those things separate because the thing that you want to be talking to like a therapist about is like the stressors of being, playing time and like starting and like, oh, like I'm having like this mental block like on the field. And that's not really stuff that you want to talk to your coach about because again, like you don't want to seem weak and you don't want to seem like this is really impacting me and gonna have an impact on like how I'm playing and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that we had good support, but it would have been better to have somebody that was a therapist and just somebody totally impartial and not biased.
Yeah. I feel like also the first week we were there, we had so many meetings. I don't know if it was because it was our first year team, but like we haven't had that many meetings since. And it was just like we kept doing meetings about like these are the rules. Do not, like, you can't drink for like whatever, like you can't do this, you can't do this, like you can do this on these days, and then about like brand deals because at that time you couldn't get paid as an athlete. And then we talked about eating disorders a little bit, but that was like the only thing we really got into. They didn't really like give us a warning, like, okay, this is gonna get a little rocky for a few days or like a few weeks. Like we were like, okay, eating disorder, got it, like careful with that. But it was just like all of a sudden it just crashed, I feel like.
Yeah, there definitely should have been, yeah, they gave us a lot of information and then there wasn't much follow-up. Like there should have been more. I feel like it would have been better to have more checkups because like I struggled a lot with like, you know, eating. Like I definitely bulked my freshman year, and I just didn't know, like, because it was like, oh, like you need to be putting all this food in
Right.
your body, and then like, I didn't really feel great about it because I wasn't like properly educated on how to be doing it. And I think that's like one of the things where like, oh, like you're a student athlete, you should know how to feel your body, but like I definitely feel like I didn't. Um, and then I'm trying to think, like I had a thought of what that also sparked in my mind. Mm, it'll come back to me.
Yeah. I mean, I remember our meeting, one of our meetings, we watched a video from Victoria Garrick, who's the
Yeah.
volleyball player from USC, and she's still all over social media with her stuff, but she like, it just really got put into her heads, like your body's going to change, like you need to fuel yourself, but you're lifting more than before and you're working out more than before. It's like you're going to gain muscle. And it's kind of like, all right, like
Yeah, I
what?
was not prepared for that at all.
Yeah,
The way that it changes your body, like that, that was definitely, that definitely impacted me a lot. And then, because, and then we're seeing pictures of ourselves like out in the field and like all these things, which should be really exciting. There's just things like that, which I wish that it hadn't impacted me as much. And now, being 2 years post grad, I wish I didn't care about those things as much. But like in the moment, I hadn't cared about those things as much. Um, but yeah, I just wish people would like talked about it a little bit more. There's definitely a lot of like comparison, you know,
yeah.
um, in that sense. There's a lot of it.
Do you think,
Um,
speaking
yeah.
about being 2 years post grad, do you think being a college athlete transformed into your professional life now?
Yeah. Okay. So that was one point that it was on my mind that I was thinking about was um like 2 years post grad, like they don't I feel like we aren't prepared as much as we should be going off into the world after being a college athlete and like having somebody, like I would say your coaches hold our hand. However, they tell us what to do at every hour of the day. And
Yeah,
like your schedule is so structured, like you know exactly what you're doing. Like, and then the reason that we're doing everything is basically for our sport. That's how it is like a college athlete, the way that you eat, the way that you're resting, what you're spending your time doing, like everything is for your sport. Because that's what you spend all your time doing. And when you get out of college, I think I struggled a lot with like just having a schedule. Like I felt like I needed something to be scheduled at every hour of the day because otherwise, like I didn't know what to do with myself. Like I need somebody to tell me that sort of thing, just as my coaches had done. And then, working out and staying in shape post college sports, like that's a whole other like mental barrier because there's a lot of things, when we're working out in college, whether it's in the training room or it's doing conditioning on the field, it's very conditioned into our minds that like, if you're not hurting, then, you're not getting something out of it. Like you're not getting any better. So just like reframing that, or like if you're not like dying of sweat and totally just exhausted, then you aren't getting a good workout in. So then that really has an impact on you. And then obviously you're not spending your entire, you're not spending 2-3 hours a day working out when you're an adult and you have a job and responsibilities, not doing it every day. So then I also think that that was a struggle. But I mean, obviously there was good things of it, of teaching me, because you learn through college like what works for you as your body does adjust, how to eat, how to feel your body, what workouts you do and don't like.
yeah,
So I think that that really um, helped out a lot. And then professionally, that's the thing. Like when I was doing all my interviews and stuff, when I was finding a job, college athletes are definitely favored in the workforce, because we have to time manage all these different things and tackle all these different things. Usually we have really good resilience. Some days we're getting ripped a new one, and then the next day there's like a big high and everyone's celebrating and close together. So there's definitely, we can definitely take the punches. So that definitely carries around to your work life a lot. And then, leadership, like responsibility, accountability. I really, really think that college taught me a lot about that to take over into like my professional
Yeah.
career. And I'm really grateful for that too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like time management was that was the big thing. I mean, but also the workout thing, like what you brought up was super accurate about, like, even now, like I graduated 8 months ago, I think, some in the past year. But even now I'm like, okay, like, because I feel like, especially since we were playing lacrosse like our whole lives, like you work out for lacrosse. Like if you're going
Yeah.
to the gym, you're doing leg exercises that will help you for lacrosse, arm exercises that help you for lacrosse. Like, but so now I'm kind of like, okay, like I don't need to completely wear myself out beyond like the verge of throwing up every
Yeah.
time I work out. And it's still like, I'm still kind of like, okay, like I worked out for an hour and a half today. It's fine, even though I'm not like dying, like we're fine.
Yeah,
But I'm
exactly. I
still,
think about it all the time when I'm going like on my runs and stuff. I'm like in my mind, I would say almost every time I'm still like thinking like, I wonder how I would be doing right now if I was doing like the ladder sprints, or like I wonder how I'd be doing in
yeah,
comparison to the girls on the lacrosse team, like in sense of like cardio. And then yeah, I totally agree with you. Like there's a lot of things that you notice like you don't really have to work out as much anymore. I think my arms was like a big one because like we literally were throwing a stick and a
yeah,
ball all day, and I didn't realize how much of like a workout that was. So I don't know. There's definitely a big adjustment. I've talked to a bunch of my girlfriends who are also like graduated in the past few years from college sports, and they say the exact same thing. Like working out after college sports and like eating after college sports and trying to figure out all those things that work for you, like we are not prepared for it at all.
yeah,
And it's definitely interesting to figure that sort of stuff out. I feel like we need like a psych eval like when we're graduating and that
yeah.
sort of sense.
I know.
So yeah.
That's what eventually we want to start making our app have a piece of it that's for recently graduated or like about to be graduated. Cause like that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm doing this, but at the same time, like I can turn it on and be like, okay, like I need to help athletes with their mental health. But then at the same time, sometimes I'm working out, I'm like, I don't like, I'm not working out enough. Like I need to be like sweating, like whatever. And it's like super challenging to kind of,
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I there's this, I'm not gonna like say names, but there's this big lacrosse player. Okay, she's like the girl, and like when we were growing up, and she still kind of is. And I just remember like watching like some of her like workout videos. She would always do, like her wall ball videos, like just her other like workout progressions. And in one of her videos, I remember her saying like, "Oh, I don't start counting like my reps until I'm hurting." Like she's like, once she starts hurting and feeling it, then she starts counting her reps. And then I just always remember like thinking about
I know exactly who you're talking about.
that. And like sort of like, and we look up to her. So then like I think about stuff like that. And then it carries around into your life afterwards, where I'm like, if I'm not hurting in this workout, like I'm not getting anything out of it.
Yeah,
So trying to figure out, and navigate lower impact workouts when our bodies are beat up from college sports and like we just don't work like we used to.
yeah,
It's definitely a little bit of a struggle.
yeah. Do you kind of transferring this, if you were going to talk to an athlete, a college athlete now, whether it be like a freshman or someone that's about to graduate, what would you, or if it was like you, if you're like looking at like your younger self, what would you say to yourself or to another player?
Yeah. Um, so the first big thing that I would say is just to, I have more gratitude than anything for, the experience that I had and the sport as a whole, the team, the time that I got to be a college lacrosse player. It goes by super fast. So like take all of the opportunities that you can. And yeah, it is going to suck sometimes. Um, and in those times, that is when you need to be reaching out to like other players. Like you don't realize that like how many other people are going through what you went through because no one wants to talk about it for reasons like comparison and whatnot. And they're, you're kind of competing with your teammates too. So talking to players, asking for help, whether it's from your PT or from the school sports therapist. But definitely just realize like it is going to suck sometimes, and it's okay to ask for help in those times. Like that is what this sport is. And honestly, like if there isn't a struggle, then you probably aren't growing. Um, and and that's okay. Like I think that's the part that I put a lot of emphasis on is all those feelings are okay to go through. It
Yeah.
goes by super fast. Be in the moment with it. Have a lot of fun. And honestly, like I would have, if I could have gone back and done it, like I probably would have still, even saying it now that there were some times where it was really hard, I would have wanted to put in more work. I would have wanted to do a lot more things that
Yeah.
um, I didn't then. And like there's still certain things. I mean, I'm on huddle. Like I will think about like certain like plays and stuff that like you just wish you could have gone back on and
Yeah.
done. So I would say like definitely spend more time doing that. And then realize that, college sports aren't the be all end all. I think
Yeah.
Coach Richmond, she did a great job at like putting an emphasis on that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like we love this sport, but like you're not going pro. Like, so
That
think
was another
about
thing,
other
like,
things in your life. Yeah, like think about your education, think about all those other great things that you're going to do. It isn't your whole life. I don't know, just like yeah, be more in the moment with it. Really, really, really cherish the opportunity that you have and the entire team that is presented of just best friends and buddies that you have right at your fingertips. So I would say just be in the moment with it. It goes by so fast.
yeah, that's good. There was also, I think, I'm guessing when you were talking about when we'd get like completely ripped apart, there's this one specific time where our team really like, it was just bad. There was a bunch of class absences. Like for how little kids we had on our team, we had way too many absences in a short amount of time. But again, it was a first semester freshman. We were all in the same boat. So we're like, oh, we don't have to go to school, like whatever. And our coach ripped us. And it was like good. Like in the moment, it was super scary. And we're like, oh my God, like we're in college. Like we don't need to go to school anymore. But like looking back, it's like, okay, she actually like did want us to like get an education. And even like last year and all the seasons before, it's always been like, all right, you need to be at class, you need to be getting like good grades or like at least trying. But
Yeah.
yeah, no.
No, I feel very blessed. This is another thing, like talking to other players who have graduated. Our coaches really did a good job about making sure that we had a life outside of sports. Even though obviously they wanted lacrosse to be our primary focus and our goal because they're our coaches and they wanted to win. And, I feel the same way. Like it was a
Yeah.
huge part of the college experience. They still really cared about everything else that we were doing in our lives.
Yeah.
And I think that was really, really cool.
Yeah. Do you have, we're gonna wrap this up, I think. Do you have anywhere that you want people to reach you or connect with you?
Yeah, totally. You can reach me on my Instagram. I am Erin Bodmer on Instagram.
Erin knows
Yeah,
everybody in every state.
I was about to say I do know a lot of people. I mean, like always post stuff. So like I remember posting last year and having a lot of like athletes reach out. This is kind of like a tangent, but I've gone through so many cycles post grad of figuring out what I like to do working out wise. Like I was like in an iron gym doing like
I
bodybuilding.
remember
I've
that.
done I've done Pilates. I'm now like really big into cycle bar and like just cardio. I was doing hot yoga for a few months. Like I'm all over the place with stuff like that. And I also think that that's okay. Like, just
Yeah.
it's a big trial and error, and you're just figuring out all this stuff. But yeah, so it's really great, be vulnerable on social media, post that sort of stuff, being like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I love getting, tips and help from other people. And I think that people appreciate that, you know, I can give some info and tips on stuff that I've done.
I still talk to Erin. Like me and Erin don't talk every week. And then every few times I'm like, Erin, I don't know how to do this. Or like, or I'll be like, do you know anyone in this like super pinpoint area? And she's like, oh yeah, I had one friend from college and I have one friend from here and I have one friend from here. Like she just knows everybody.
Yeah.
Even our freshman year, like when people were getting committed, like for our next year, she was like, "Oh, this person actually went to high school with my friend's sister's cousin." Like,
Yeah,
weirdest
yeah.
thing.
The
But yeah,
lacrosse world is a small world.
yeah. All right. Thank you for talking, Erin.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Word.